Let's get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal day. If it is still for you guys a Thursday, then hopefully you guys are having a great rest of your Thursday. If you guys are kicking off your guys' Friday, hopefully you guys are having a phenomenal start to your guys' day. With that being said, though, today's show, obviously, a lot of different things happened today. You guys might not be aware, but we had a couple different technical issues that had to get sorted out. So the interview with Isaiah Stevens will actually happen same time next week on Thursday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Make sure to tune into that show. As for boxing, I'll have a little bit more guests on the show next week as well. But with that being said, though, I'm going to check one thing real quick, make sure we're working good audio. Yes, we are good. All right. So with that being said, though, let's hop right into today's show. As always, if you guys have any comments, questions, discussions, whatever you guys want me to discuss on the show today, make sure to go leave it in the chat so I can make sure to address it on your show. On the show, you guys' comments will pop up on the screen so that you guys can see those comments as well. All right, let's get right into it today, though. Lots of stuff to get into that's happened over the past 24 hours in the boxing world. Let's kick it off with this. It's been quite the controversy in regards to the Muhammad Ali Act. And there's been push against it by most people. Some people are in support of it. Obviously, you can have your own opinion. I have a video up on my YouTube channel explaining what the changes look like, why they're being implemented, and also the downside to that, so you guys can form your own opinion on it. For me, I don't have a strong opinion on the stance, but here's what I do want to talk about. Obviously, we had the whole situation with Dana White fiasco with Sean Zeddell last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was now. And now here's a new one. Tom Brown of TGB Promotions, the promoter for PBC events, is strongly supporting the TKO-backed Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. The California State Athletic Commission held a meeting to vote on the supporting act earlier this month. 12 people asked to speak publicly, and all 12 speakers, including former UFC fighters, journalists, managers, and lawyers, criticized the proposed piece of legislation, saying that the power it would give TKO would not be beneficial for the sport and the fighters. So Tom Brown comes out, he writes a letter in support of it. Very interesting, coming that he is from PBC. And then here's an interesting statement. The WBA president sounded off on Tom Brown after Brown supported the Ali Act, and he said this: "If you want to go against us after we helped you, obviously you're not going to be welcomed." All right, so this Muhammad Ali Act is something that we all have our different opinions on. And like I said in the very beginning when I first started talking about the subject, I'm somebody that, just being quite frankly honest, I do see the benefits of it to a certain extent. I also see the downsides to it. I'll let the legal process pay out. I don't have a firm stance on this. If you have it, that's great for yourself. But this is where it's going to get interesting. A lot of people have strong opinions based upon the Muhammad Ali Act. Very strong. And we're going to start seeing a lot of division forming within the boxing world. This is a big piece right here. For Dana White, if he upsets people within the boxing world, I genuinely don't think he gives two craps about this entire situation. Why do I say that? Because Dana White doesn't really have many friends in the boxing world. He's already hated by the likes of Oscar De La Hoya. There's competitive nature between him and Eddie Hearn, so on and so forth. But what we're going to find very interesting is somebody like Tom Brown, who has been a part of the boxing scene for a very long time. If there is something that differs from the Muhammad Ali Act, we could see a lot of ripple effects now starting to progress in regards to separation happening between different parties in boxing. And that's why I really wanted to go into this subject today, because Tom Brown has a very strong footprint in the boxing world. As I said, he is of TGB Promotions. He is the promoter for a lot of PBC events. So this man's very tied in. He plays a large role in boxing behind the scenes if you're not familiar with his name. And yet, the WBA's already come out sounding off against him, saying he's no longer welcome. It makes you wonder, what is PBC's stance going to be on this? Or is Tom Brown trying to get himself positioned to go alongside Dana White and TKO, Turki Al-Sheikh, all those different people? That's to be determined. I don't know that answer. But I do think we're going to have a strong separation in the boxing community, behind the scenes people at least, in regards to this Muhammad Ali Act. It's already controversial, but I think we're just starting to kind of get a little bit of tip of the iceberg right now as to what's going to happen. Because this is going to be a long, drawn-out legal process. I personally don't think we're going to have clarity on this until possibly even 2027. It is something that's going to be a long, drawn-out process. Why? Because there are multiple sides on it. You have people within the government trying to push for this, including, let's just be honest, Dana White's pushing for it. His best friend is Donald Trump. Put two and two together, he's got a lot of power in regards to making this thing happen. And as for others, there's a lot of people that have strong opinions against it, including the vast majority of UFC personnel and boxers. So this will be a very long, drawn-out process. And my biggest thing is just wondering, what's going to happen in regards to the boxing community, who's going to be separated, and who stands on which side. That's to be determined, but I just want to bring that news to you guys now. Announced. Now, I've talked about this a couple days ago, but it's now officially announced. Tenshin Nasukawa will face Takuma Inoue for the vacant WBC Bantamweight World title on November 24th in Tokyo, Japan. The former kickboxing sensation will get his very first shot at a world title against the former champion and brother of pound-for-pound star Naoya Inoue. This fight, I already gave you guys my thoughts on it a couple of nights ago. This is a blockbuster type of fight, where if you are an American and you might have to wake up early in the morning, whether it be, for me, it would be 4 a.m., for some people 5, 6, whatever it is, this is worth waking up for. When you talk about the possible stardom that could start with Tenshin Nasukawa on November 24th, it's going to be massive. If you have not watched him before, he has a legitimate chance to become the next face of Japanese boxing, and that is saying something. We're talking about a sport in a country right now that currently has a pound-for-pound superstar, a first-ballot Hall of Famer, Naoya Inoue. We have another great opportunity now coming into fruition where you have Junto Nakatani, a rising superstar. You have another great star in Kenshiro Teraji. And I'm saying this quite confidently. Tenshin Nasukawa has a legitimate chance to make his footprint on the boxing scene in Japan by becoming a world champion on November 24th, which would be a phenomenal jumpstart for a man that was a kickboxing star just a handful of years ago. He has a chance to go become a new superstar in not only Japanese boxing, but boxing as a whole. So if I were you guys and you have to wake up in the early morning at the very beginning, go out there and watch this fight on November 24th. I'm going to head to the comment section real quickly. Ollie, what's going on, man? Good to see you as well. No, this is not pre-recorded. So it actually is currently 11:16 p.m. my time. And the reason for that is I had a lot of technical difficulties earlier in the day where my equipment actually, some stuff froze out. We had no internet out here. So I had to wait until late tonight to finally get it all fixed and get on live. But great to see you here, man, Ali. Hope you're having a great night as well. Appreciate you guys all for tuning in. As always, if you guys have any comments, make sure to leave it in the chat, and I'll make sure to go pull those comments up on the screen if there are any questions or topics for me to discuss on today's show. But appreciate you for tuning in today, Ollie. All right, so let's hop into the next subject. Ben Shalom is targeting November for Ben Whittaker's return with plans from the headline the show in Birmingham. I love this. Ben Whittaker had quite the controversy a little bit over a year ago against Liam Cameron. That was a fiasco. We have already discussed that many times. He did exactly what every great fighter should go out there and do, and he put on a remarkable comeback against Liam Cameron when he knocked him out early in that fight. Brilliant performance. That was on Easter Sunday. Now we've been kind of wondering what's going on with Ben Whittaker. Obviously, you can tell he's a little bit more dialed in on boxing. Some of the outside shenanigans have kind of quieted down, but we have not heard any boxing rumors. And now Ben Whittaker is expected to return in November in Birmingham. I'm excited to see who that opponent might be. I think he is a guy that still could be a next star in the UK for boxing. He has the pedigree, he has the talent, he also has the branding, which is essential for stars to become out there, especially in the UK. So that's where I'm going to talk about Ben Whittaker. Let's head over to Ryan Garcia. Now, I can't pull up the footage on the show right now with it being live and somebody else owning the content rights to it. But if you have seen the video of Ryan Garcia, I think it was posted yesterday, but Ryan Garcia posted a video, and it looks like his hands are quite healed up now. His hand speed was back with the Ryan Garcia we typically know and love, and I'm just going to be intrigued by it. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself right now. Obviously, this was pad work. Anybody can typically look good in pad work, but what I'm really looking for in a guy in Ryan Garcia is two things. First of all, where is he at mentally? That's been the biggest question for Ryan Garcia for the past 3, 4, 5 years now. Where is he at mentally? And so far, there hasn't been a lot of wild social media outbursts. He's been good on that end, so that's encouraging. But on top of that, what does his hands look like? And his biggest signature trait that's made Ryan Garcia so special for so long has been his hand speed. That's always been what set him apart in his career so far. And let's be honest, whatever the heck happened against Rolly Romero, it was one of the first times, if not the first time, I've ever seen Ryan Garcia gun shy. The man did not want to throw it. And I get it now. We do have clarity. He obviously had a hand injury. Who knows what that really played a factor in the Rolly Romero fight. But I saw that video and it made me wonder, could Ryan Garcia be back? You know, that's a big hypothetical question that I do not know, and I can't answer that until we see him back in the ring. But what I will say is this. If, and this is a big if Ryan Garcia can get right here and he can get healthy, Ryan Garcia being an active fighter, fighting at a high level, is good for the sport of boxing. He runs his mouth too much. I've always been very critical of that, but his branding is big for boxing. Regardless of what you have in life, you need stars. And boxing is at a place right now where they are lacking stars at large. Two of the biggest names in boxing right now are Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, both of which have not fought in a very long time. By the end of 2025, both those guys will have not fought for at least 1 year. Canelo Alvarez, he just lost. He's coming to the tail end of his career. Tank Davis, Lord knows what that man's doing. There's a lot of stuff just going on with these stars in boxing where we need more of them. Ryan Garcia has the capability and potential to be a star, and if he can get healthy, that'd be huge for the sport of boxing. That's also why I brought up Ben Whittaker, because he does have that ability to be a star in terms of marketing, in terms of who he is branding-wise, all those aspects. So we'll see what happens with Ryan Garcia. Here is interesting news. It's been rumored. I've already given my thoughts on it before, but it is now official. Frazer Clarke will face Jeamie TKV for the vacant British heavyweight title on October 25th in Derby. The fight will be broadcast on BBC Two in the UK with the undercard on BBC iPlayer. All right. As I've always said about this rumored fight, I love it. It is a fun fight. Now, I'll be honest, there's a chance that the fight sucks, and there's a good chance that the fight is excellent. Styles make fights, and it really depends on what type of fight they're both going to bring to the ring that night. But I do love the fight. I don't want to complain about the fight. I think this fight is spectacular. Here is the problem. All right? And it's a big problem. And hypothetically, they came out with this. I'm just going to read the statement at first. The Frazer Clarke Jeamie TKV British heavyweight title fight, ring walks on October 25th, will take place at 9 p.m. UK time on BBC Two, avoiding a clash with Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley, which is expected after 10 p.m. Okay, this is really where I want to make sure I emphasize this on. This is going to be an interesting day for the UK. And I actually have the schedule pulled up on my phone right now. Let me pull it up for you guys. Here's the situation currently at play in the UK on October 25th in the UK. You have Brentford, Liverpool, obviously a massive football, as they'll call it out there, soccer in America, match going down. You have Frazer Clarke TKV on BBC going down. You have Tom Aspinall and his UFC fight going down around the same time. And then on top of that, you also have the big heavyweight fight between Fabio Wardley and Joseph Parker. All of these events are going down in the UK on the same day. And that's the problem when I look at this. Who is going to take all this viewership? It's a fun thing to look at, but I just wonder. There are so many weekends that you could probably put it on. Let's be honest. How often are you going to have two good British heavyweight fights going down? Not very often. Why couldn't you do it the week after or even the week before? That's my big problem here. I love Jeamie TKV Frazer Clarke. It is a fun fight. But Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker is going down at the O2 Arena. Tom Aspinall is fighting as well that weekend. And then you have a big football match as well. When you combine all these different factors, it just makes you scratch your head. Wouldn't you probably want to go out there and find the best way to get the most eyes on your product? And on top of that, don't forget, this Jeamie TKV Frazer Clarke fight is also going to be the debut of Boxer on BBC. Grand opening, awesome opportunity for them. I love what Ben Shalom did to at least get a deal in place, unlike Top Rank, just throwing that out there. But is really putting it on the same night as Fabio Wardley, Joseph Parker really the right decision to make? And I get it. They said this. They will not clash. Supposedly, one's going to take place at 9 p.m., the other at 10 p.m. But we all know boxing. Sometimes cars move fast. Sometimes they are delayed. It is boxing. You cannot control it. And what we've had happen in the past is both these fights end up crossing. And if that happens, half the people will be watching one, half will be watching the other. It just seems like a dumb marketing tactic. And for me, I love when there's a lot of sports on. But I don't like when they intertwine because I want to be able to actually watch the sports. And there's so often that we have these weekends or even 2 or 3 weeks at a time where no big fights are going down. So it makes you wonder, why couldn't you just go take that fight and move it to the next weekend? That's the big question here. Hopefully they do not collide though, but it is what it is. Frazer Clarke, Jeamie TKV, and Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley going down in the UK, same exact day, same weekend. Tom Aspinall as well is going down. Who knows how it's going to play out, but that is the problem at hand. Sticking in the UK though, we finally have breaking news. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn has now revealed the undercard. And obviously, once again, the main event is the main attraction for this one. It always is, but when you talk about the magnitude of this fight, The reason the place is going to be sold out is because of this fight right here. But I'm quite impressed by this undercard. I'm just going to put it out there. I'm actually very impressed. The first time around, it was solid, but I felt like the undercards did not deliver, and the main event really saved everything. I like this main or the undercard right here. Just to list it out for you guys. Going in chief support at co-main event, Jack Catterall, Echo Estiman. I'm going to pause real quick and break down this fight. Brilliant matchmaking. Jack Catterall, I'm very high on it, and I cannot wait for this fight. Why? Because he just now got out there with Bozy Ennis. I cannot wait to see how Bozy Ennis has his imprint and fingerprints, I should say, on his career now moving forward. We're going to see that debut now on the undercard of Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. I absolutely am ecstatic to see what Jack Catterall looks like with Bozy Ennis in his corner. He's making his debut against a very good, experienced fighter in Echo Estiman, who's coming off of the remarkable performance against Josh Taylor earlier this year. This is a beautiful British class that will be a phenomenal co-main event. I know, obviously, Jack Catterall does not always like to be on the aggression standpoint, but here's the situation. If he's with Bozy Ennis is a much more aggressive fighter. And I expect there to have some of those kind of him at least go and pursue a little bit more in his fights. And so hopefully we do see that. So I love Jack Catterall, Echo Estiman. Brilliant fight right there. Here's one I'm ecstatic about. Adam Azim finally gets himself placed on a massive platform. He will be the second up fight there. Adam Azim versus Zohar Abdulov. I like this fight as well. For Adam Azim, I think he will win it. I am very, very high on Adam Azim. I think he's got a remarkably high ceiling, but he's been absolutely brutally mismanaged over the duration of the past year, has not been able to develop at the standard and rate he probably should be, and now we have the opportunity to see him on a massive card against a solid fighter. I love this opportunity for him. Here's a unique one. Richard Riakporhe will be fighting Tommy Welch. Good, interesting fight right there. Now, I had Napper on the show, was going to have Napper on the show yesterday, who is Tommy Welch's manager. This was the fight that I kept talking to you guys about that he was working on getting done. That's why we couldn't have the interview. So he will be on the show on Wednesday. He'll be breaking down this card and the different fighters he has, including Chris Eubank Jr., who he manages. So tune in on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's when he'll be back on the show. But absolutely great matchmaking right there. Sam Gilly, Ishmael Davis. Let me pause again and talk about this fight. I love it. I had Ishmael Davis on the show. I think it was 3 weeks ago now. It was 2 weeks prior to the fight he had. So yeah, about 3 weeks ago now. And Ishmael Davis obviously has now lost again. 3 straight losses. He lost to Keeman Argpo, and obviously that was a great performance. I thought it was a very neck-and-neck fight. A little bit shocked that Keeman actually came away with that win when he got knocked down in the final round, but it is what it is. Ishmael Davis is a fun fighter, and he's now going to be fighting for the British title here against Sam Gilly. So absolutely great matchmaking there, and I'll just point this out real quickly. For Sam Gilly, obviously he's coming off a draw, so I think Ishmael Davis will win this fight, finally get back in the win column. But for Ishmael Davis, this is why it's so critical to have the right promoters, right managers. You don't lose 3 times in a row. Obviously, all of them were against good fighters, top 15 ranked fighters, and you get another fight, this time for a British title. So great matchmaking here, great opportunity for Ishmael Davis. He's earned it. Hopefully he gets to go out there and get a good win against Sam Gilly. Then Mickey Talon fighting Fezin Shahid. He's going to be the first fight of the night. Solid fight right there as well. So overall, I am ecstatic about the main card, the main event, and undercard. I think that's going to be a phenomenal card that goes down in the UK. Sticking in the UK once again, Europrom, as the lone bidder, has won the purse bids on Wednesday for the European super middleweight title fight between champion Callum Simpson and mandatory Kevin Lele Sadjo. They bid 15,000 euros and plan to stage the bout in France, though it is unlikely that it will take place. So obviously, when you have this type of situations and they go to bids, it doesn't mean a fight's going to happen. Yes, they want it. That means that if the fight does occur, they will be able to host the fight and promote and do whatever the heck they want with it. Their goal is to put it in France. We'll see if it ends up happening. I think it would be a solid fight, but 168 is a really interesting weight class right now. You've got a lot of stuff that people are just waiting right now. I don't think we're going to see a lot of fights happening at 168 until we have clarity on what Bud Crawford does. Because if Bud Crawford relinquishes all the belts and moves on to 160 or whatever the case may be, there's going to be a lot of those belts opened up now, all 4 in fact, and that's going to, a lot of guys are going to start positioning themselves to actually go fight for world championships. So I don't see any of these fights coming to fruition right now. I think it's going to be a little bit of a waiting game at 168 to see what happens with Bud Crawford. Another big news. Agit Kabayel will return to the ring in Germany on January 10th. Kabayel is expected to announce a top 10 opponent, and the event will be promoted by Queensberry. All right. I honestly am a little bit shocked that it's taken this long for Kabayel to get back into the ring. Absolutely remarkable performance against Zheli Zhang earlier this year. I thought he didn't take too much damage. Obviously, it was still a brutal fight for the time it was going on for, but I thought he'd be back in the ring a little bit sooner, kind of ride the hype train he was building for himself. But it is what it is. I'm all for it. Him being back this year is good news here, or next year is good news in January. Queensbury, homecoming from in Germany. I saw the rumors it should actually be a 13,000 seat arena there. So it's good. Germany boxing hopefully continues to develop. Kabayel is obviously the face of it at the moment in time. I think it's a great opportunity. Now I'm just ecstatic to see who he fights. And the same thing. I just talked about it with 168. Everybody's waiting to see what Bud Crawford does. At heavyweight, you've got a lot of guys. If you had all 4 belts open, Kabayel would probably be one of the world champions at this moment in time. But because Usyk holds all the belts at this point in time, it makes it a interesting weight class because Usyk's not fighting very often. And then you have Joseph Parker in line. You have Itoma hypothetically in line. You've got Kabayel in line. And then you have the likes of a Tyson Fury, AJ, who can get whatever the heck they really want in boxing. So a lot of things are happening at heavyweight. Once Usyk moves on from boxing, it'll get the weight class moving again. I think that's kind of what Kabayel is doing, just making sure he stays active, stays in good positioning so he can go out there and fight for world championship when those belts do open up. Last thing on today's show, unless you guys have any comments for me to discuss, and as always, make sure to have, if you guys have any comments or topics for me to discuss, or you guys want to hear yourself, whatever it might be, leave something in the chat. I'll put your comment up on the screen, and we can go back and forth and address whatever it is you want to talk about. Let's get right to it. The last subject I have planned for today is in regards to Tszyu. I gave a pretty bold statement last week about Tszyu and his decision to move on from his coaches. I made it very clear that at the end of the day, the biggest hindrance for Tszyu has been this: his managing staff. The people putting him in the position over the past 18 months have done him an injustice, have done him a disservice, has been absolutely brutally managed over the past 18 months, has hurt him from a physical standpoint, a career standpoint, everything pretty much he's been hurt by. Him making coaching change, it is what it is. We'll see if it works, but he's going to have to build himself back up. He's taking a lot of damage. I don't know if he's going to get back to where he once was. Only time will tell. But let's head into this. The breaking news is this: Tszyu will now have a new man helping him with his career, as Mike Altamura hopes to create a path to redemption for the former title weight holder. All right. We'll see what happens. I just gave you guys my thoughts again, essentially, on it. Will coaching help him? Does he need to make changes to his game? Sure. But as I said, when you talk about boxing, maybe the biggest aspect outside of just natural God-given ability is how are you managed? That's the biggest deal. If you are properly managed, you're not going to go places. If you are perfectly managed, something I just talked about, Ishmael Davis somehow getting another big fight right away, you get these big doors open up for yourself, and it's great for your career. For Tszyu, you could look at it and say, hey, what are you talking about, SchuZ? This is a man that's got to go fight Fundora twice. This is a man that's been able to go out there and have a tune-up fight, a brutal tune-up fight, but whatever. He also got another world title shot against Bakar Murtzavaliev. How is that being mismanaged? Why? Because Tszyu was world champion. When he took the brutal hit from Sebastian Fundora, got the cut from the elbow, and opened it all up, that should have required him to go out there and heal himself back up, get a tune-up fight before he goes back and hopefully does a rematch against Fundora. Instead, they throw him right back into the lion's den against Bakar Murtzavaliev. Who in the right mind would do that? He just went from a brutal fight against Fundora, and you put him in with Bakar Murtzavaliev. And we all know how that fight went down. And I think a lot of people looked at that, and maybe some people thought, didn't know Bakram that well and thought Tszyu was going to win that. Absolutely no, he was not going to win that fight. And they threw him right back into the lion's den. That was a situation where before he fights a Bakram or a Fundora again, you should have went and done a tune-up fight. But they threw him right back to the lion's den, and then he was coming off of 2 absolutely brutal beatdowns. Hurt his career pretty badly. You go into your tune-up fight earlier this year, it goes fine. There probably should have been 2 or 3. You should have done the Keith Thurman fight, in my opinion, before you fought Fundora. But you go back against Fundora, and you get absolutely slaughtered in that ring again. And now you're back in a position where you've gone through 3 brutal fights in a little bit over a year span, all of which have caused massive damage to yourself, your reputation, your name. And yes, Tszyu's still a big name. Will he get himself back on the map if he gets a couple wins? Sure. But you have to build yourself up and make sure you're ready to go. His management team has done the exact opposite of that, has hurt his career, has hindered it, and Tszyu's not a young buck anymore. He is getting up there in age. How much time does he have left? Can he rebuild himself? Lots of questions to be asked. So I'm not against this move. Nothing against Mike in terms of what he's going to bring to the ring and bring to Tszyu's game. I'm just saying this. Make sure you know what you're doing in terms of your managers. Please make him go in the right situation. Build him up properly. Stop just throwing him to the lion's den. This man has a life outside of boxing. That's my biggest point I want to make. With that being said, I don't see any more comments in the chat, so I'm going to go hop off the show for today. I will be back live, though, pretty early on tomorrow morning. I'm going to probably be back on live right around noon Mountain Standard Time. I'm going to be heading out of town after that, so I'll go on live, get into some boxing topics, talk with you guys for a little bit, and then hop off live. And then next week when I come back on live, hopefully it'll be a much more normal week. I'll have a lot more guests planned. As I said, we already do have Napper will be on the show on Wednesday. He's going to be breaking some news, talking about the fight card, Chris Eubank Jr., Connor Benn. He'll be talking about all kinds of different news. So he'll be on the show. Got a few of the people I'm working on getting on the show as well. So hopefully next week will be a much more normal week for the show. But with that being said, I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your guys' night or start to your guys' day, depending on when you guys are tuning in. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. May God bless you guys all. And I will see you guys back live tomorrow in just about 12, 13 hours. So see you guys. Enjoy the next few hours. I'll be back live tomorrow my time. God bless you guys. And with that being said, SchuZ out.